All right, so the second part of rational exponents we're going to talk about is using them to solve an equation. And so we're going to start by kind of looking back at some things that you should know how to do and now relating it back to our new material. So if we were to look at this example here, this first one, we have 4 equals x squared. So in order to solve this, hopefully you think to yourself, okay, take the square root, and we get x equals the square root of 4, which means x equals 2. Okay, so we want to kind of use the same idea to work through this. We're going to work through this one in a different manner that will help us learn how to do these new ones. So another way of thinking about square rooting it would be raising it to the 1/2 power. So all we're doing is we're flipping our exponent, right? So we have a 2, so we're inverting it, we get 1/2. So if whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. And these cancel out, so that's why we do that. So we're left with x here is equal to 4 to the 1/2, which is the same thing as saying 4 the square root of 4. So again, we get back to x equals 2. And so we're going to try to use this thinking to help us get to solving this one. So if we were to solve this one using the same method we just talked about, we would want to raise both sides, make sure we flip our exponent. So we'd raise it to the 3/2. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side, 3/2. And so let's say we go to our calculator and we go 4 to the 3 divided by 2. You get that x has to equal 8, right? And so the reason we flip this exponent fraction here so that they cancel out and we're just left with x. So there's one way to help. We're going to look at just one that's a little bit, I shouldn't say a little bit more complicated, but one that could have a couple more steps in it. And so that one is, we get, let's write this out. Squared equals, let's say 5. 4 out here. X plus 7 squared, right? So this is just one thing. The reason I say let's try this one is because it could also be written as 5x plus 7. All we're doing is changing it into exponent form, and we would get 2/5. Sorry, 2/4. I don't know why I put 5. Okay, so either way you see this, we want to make sure we're able to go through and solve this. The top one is a little bit easier to see how you would go through solving. So if we look at this top one, if we wanted to go through solving this, we could raise both sides to the 4/2. 4/2. And that cancels these out, right? So we're not going to go through this whole thing, but we want to make sure we recognize how we can cancel things out, because once you do this, you get 5 to the 4/2, which gets you x plus 7 equals 25. And from there, you can continue to solve. If we look down here, you can choose which way, which one you want to cancel out first. Let's say we want to cancel out this 4th root here. So if we wanted to cancel out the 4th root, we would have to raise it to the 4th power. Raise it to the 4th power. And then as we go through, we get x plus 7 squared equals 5 to the 4th. 5 to the 4th gets us 625. Then in order to cancel out this squared, it should keep in mind from previous, you got to take the square root. If it was a 3, you'd have to take the cube root. But if you take 625, the square root of 625, you get 25. X plus 7 equals 25. And you're 25, and you're still back at this same spot. So notice whether you do it the exponent way or whether you do it the radical way, you still get to the same part where you could easily solve for x.